Hello, hello. Hi, beautiful people. Welcome back. So right now and today we're going to work on drawing noses. I've used this as an example before, and I wanted to use it again as an example. So if you watch the previous videos about drawing eyes, we also reviewed how to draw the head, and that it's an egg. One half the egg is where the eyes go. One half of the bottom part is where the bottom of the nose goes. One half of that, or 1/3 of the bottom fourth of that overall egg, is where the opening of the mouth goes. Now, you're looking at this and you're saying that doesn't look right. Yes, it doesn't feel right at first. Well, think about a bald-headed person that you know. It looks like they have a really long forehead. Reality, they do, because their head's not covered up with hair like most everybody. Now look at this girl. Look, looks like she's got a fairly moderate, decent sized forehead, right? But because her hair is pulled back and the top of her head is about in this area. So if you think about it, and then there's eyebrows here that kind of distracts you, you don't think about that. Woo, that big long space there, all empty. All right, so let's look at drawing noses. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I probably have more trouble drawing noses than I do anything. Give you a couple hints. First off, when you're drawing noses, do not draw a ton of lines and keep them. Draw light lines if you draw any, and then erase. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. So the first nose I'm going to talk to you about is called the three-ball nose. Let's say we're drawing a nose between here and here. Let's say, back to our map, here. This is our map. We're drawing a nose, remember? These are just guidelines. I'm not going to keep those. It's going to be between here and here. It's going to be in this area. So, if we're drawing the three-ball nose, it's going to be the big ball, or circle, is in the center. You want to have it centered as much as possible, okay? Now we have a ball here, a ball here. No, it's not touching the edge there. It just is close. You'll see what I'm going to do. This one, this is just guidelines. Notice that these are touching. They're kind of overlapping. And they can, because see, this is just going to be, when you look at the nose from a side view, we'll say that's a side view. This is that big ball, okay? And then the little balls on the sides are the nostrils. So that little ball would be here. It would be set back a little bit, right? So this is a side view. So now here, let's go define this nose. And this is probably the only lines that you'll really keep. So there's our nostril. The openings. Here's the edge of the nose. Now let's go back in and let's erase this. Why did we draw all that if we're going to erase it? Because it's one way to get a drawing for a nose. It's just a technique. So here's our, clean up our edges. Now this is the part where we shadow, but maybe this nose, like this little girl here in this image, has a little, see that little ball part right there? And there's a ball and there's a ball. Maybe it's a little bit pointed here. Or just chiseled is maybe a better word. So, clean it up a little bit. Now I'm keeping this pretty dark so you can see this. But if we look at this nose, the shadow is on this side. It's shadowed in there. So we're going to think about that ball. See the shadow right there? I'm just using my pencil. Maybe we can see a little more of that nostril. A lot of times people make that too dark, the nostril. And yes, it's a cavity that goes up in your nose. Yes, it's hollow, it's dark. There's boogers in there. I hope not the booger man. So we're going to just add shadow. And then this, on your paper the other day, or on the hints, the bridge of the nose is level with the eyes. So let's look at the map. What in the heck are we talking about bridge of the nose? So this part where the nose the indention, the bridge, the indention is right there with level with the eyes, and then the nose. And so that part, most of the time, will be some shadow. That would be our indention, probably there. And so this little girl's nose, shadow, shadow. Notice I'm very lightly. Now, if you have your stump steel, which you should, see this part of the mouth we're going to worry about in a minute, but that nostril, see, keep in mind it's a ball. That's why now we're going to use a stump. Should I find one? And I'm going to just blend this a little bit. If we look at this one, tip of her nose has some shadow on it too. All I'm doing is just using the shadow. Underneath this nostril is shadow. And then right here, I don't know the correct name for that on your mouth. Really, now I'm going to come back and clean this up a little bit. All right, you see how this kind of, I don't want a solid line, so I'm barely, this side actually, and there's some light right there. And so this area right here, the cheek, this side, this area is in shadow. A lot of people get really confused, and they want to add all these lines on the nose, and there's really no lines there. It's just shadow. This is an outline right there. It's the only place. All right, let's talk about the other way you can draw that same nose. This is a lot easier. Let's say you're doing the nose between, again, on your map, between there and there. And I call it the roller coaster nose. Up, and so basically you're going to have two curlicues. I don't know what you call that. Maybe seat belts. And then you're going to go up on the heel, down in the valley, back up on the heel. But you don't want to touch the curlicues. Yeah, that one's really easy. But it doesn't give you the idea that there's balls there. So what I'm going to do is just kind of make this nostril a little dark, a little dark. Same idea here. You're going to add shadow. So if we're using this one, well, let's look at a different one. Look at this lady's nose, okay? Here's the curlicues that I drew. Here's up on the mountain, down in the valley, back up on the hill. You can kind of see up in her nose just a hair. So this time the shadow, and she's got a bridge of the nose. It's a kind of pronounced. And so I don't want to go up in there and mess that one, but the shadow's over on this side. And so we're looking at this. Guys, you all have access to the internet. You have access to tons of images. So underneath here, I'm just marking in where I'm shading it. Okay, so I'm going to shadow, shadow. Very lightly. You need to use a pencil. Guys, you can't do this with a pen. And so shadow. This front part of her nose is in shadow. And then underneath here, I'm just going to shade the whole thing lightly. Lightly. Now you're thinking, oh, that's pretty messy. It looks hairy. Yeah, but we're going to take our stump or our finger. Everybody should have a stump. I've gave you guys one. Don't know what I'm going to do about next 9 weeks. Oh, yeah. So now, what about all this shadow here? A little bit of shadow right through there. You have an eraser for a reason, okay? Now, in reality, this whole part of the face over here is in shadow. See that? I'm just showing you. You couldn't have this nose and no shadow over here. I'm just showing you the nose right now. Now let's go back in and tweak that nostril. Just a hair darker, darker. Or if you've got the black coloring pencil from before, which I really need to sharpen. Darker there, darker there. So that you wouldn't outline the rest of that because it's in just shadow, not a hollow cavity. All right, that's the nose. Here's my 2 hints. Only outline the bottom. If you draw lines down from your map, erase those. Erase the ball if you draw that. So only outline the bottom and shade. Okay, so here's the outline the bottom. That's my 2 hints. Outline the bottom and shade all areas. Well, we won't, and shade where you need to shade. That's the nose, but if not, it'll be a separate video. So we're going with the ball nose. This is going to be the placement of the nose. We've got maybe that ball needs to be a hair bigger. My pencil is dull, and I like drawing with a sharp pencil, but we're going to keep it right now for this. Here's it. These can overlap or touch, so they're kind of overlapping. Now I'm going to go in there and start defining. Right here's the nostril. Right here's the nostril. This image is a little bit draw. Trust me, or small. It's large. It's easier to draw a little larger and have detail. So I'm going to go in and erase those balls that I spent all that time drawing. Let's see, this one is a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm erasing those guidelines. Don't keep those guidelines. Now, we're going to go in here and shade this. And that right there does not feel right. Right here's my problem. That side. That's too dark. So we're going to shade it sort of like this one here, since we have it as a reference photo. Please do not hesitate. And here I said was the bridge of the nose. Please don't. I'm not going to worry about shading all this or anything. I'm going to just shade this side of the nose. Remember, that's a ball. It's going to have a little bit of highlight on it, even though it's in shadow. And if you look underneath her nose here, there's a technical name for that. I hope somebody will tell me about it. I can't remember it. My grandson, he has a very pronounced one of those. I do too when I shave, I guess. The muscle there underneath the nose and for the top lip. All right, so now, yeah, just blending that a little bit. You can use your stump. Look here, somebody smashed the point of that stump. I'm going to come back and erase that. There's not shadow on that side when we're looking over here. Look at my pinky on my left hand, where the pencil is. All right, I'm going to go back and erase. Now, I could have done the other kind of nose here, too. I'm going to go ahead and add shadow through here. And if you look at this eyeball, this part's in shadow. People want to draw the eye, and they will never want to put shadow on that white part because, oh, it's white. Well, if it's in shadow, it's in shadow. So this whole side of her face is in shadow, actually. We'll talk more about this in our next lesson. But so now it's a start. It's not anything amazing.